Welcome to the Behind the Art Inspiration podcast. In these special edition episodes of Creative Lifebook interviews, I'll meet with co-authors of the book and discuss their creative life hacks. We will also touch on how the book has become a magic springboard for other things to unfold in these authors' lives. In this episode, I connect with artist and conscious reader, and I hope I'm saying your name right, Katrin.
Well, in German, it's Katrin.
Katrin, that's right. Katrin Bader, the author of chapter 24, Hugo Goes on Holiday. I'm your host, Caroline Karp, filming from my Clearwater, Florida studio. The Creative Lifebook is full of reflections on the art of living a fully expressed life. Written by Jessica Hughes, along with 65 thought leaders, artists, and creatives, and the foreword is written by Dr. Joe Vitale. So thank you so much, Katrin, for coming on the show with me. And we talked a little bit before I pressed go, and I found out where you're from.
Yes.
You're tell us real quick again.
Yes, I'm originally from Austria, like I'm Austrian. And now I'm living in Spain because my husband is Spanish. We're living actually in Mallorca on a Mediterranean island.
Must be beautiful.
I
might have to visit because I am going to be going in that direction in July. So your title of your chapter is Hugo Goes on Holiday.
Exactly.
Of course, everybody's going to want to know who is Hugo? What is Hugo?
Okay. Hugo is just like an invented name for the voice that we all have we all have, this kind of voice telling us what we want to do, that speaks from our heart. Like sometimes it's this feeling of, I'd like to do that. But then there is this other voice coming in saying, yeah, but you shouldn't do that. You're too old for that, or you're not good enough to do that, or what might they think? All these kind of things that come up. So my chapter is about talking to that voice, giving it a name. In my case, I as an example, I gave it the name Hugo. And that's why, because I found it funny because it sounds a bit like you go.
Oh yeah, there you go.
You go. So the idea is that by addressing this voice and giving it a name, it could be a funny name, it can be like, you can make fun of that voice, or you can make friends with that voice, or you can just send that voice off. That's the idea. So that you allow yourself to really do that thing that your heart wants to do. So sometimes, in society, whatever, you act by the rules. And I don't say like don't do that, but still it's like you don't trust your heart, or you're scared to do things. And this helps you to do these steps. So maybe because, for example, I'm a teacher, I'm a language teacher actually, but I'm an artist too, of course. And until I was brave enough to tell everybody I'm an artist, like this voice was, yeah, but you didn't go to art school, but you're not good enough, but look at the painters, what they paint. Yeah, that voice doesn't have power over me anymore, because it's just like, I love to do it, and it's what I need to do, it's what I'm meant to do. And I got over this voice telling me, yeah, but you're not worthy enough to do this, by this hack, basically. And the idea is to send him off, like you call him like Hugo, and you tell him, for example, you can go to that island and lie in the sun for a while, so he's not here telling you things. Or I've already heard different things people do, like also it's the same kind of you do with fear. Like, you can sit in the back seat, I'm driving, I'm in charge here, you can be there, but I'm not listening really to what you say. Basically, to be brave and to do the things that you love.
Before we came on camera, we were also talking about I have something that I talk about quite a bit, the art of expressive living, right? And then you said, oh, well, here I am over in Europe and I'm doing kind of the same thing. And you call it, tell me again.
Like I have a Facebook group and that's called The Art of Life.
The Art of Life. So very similar.
Yeah.
And I think that all over the globe, it's actually happening. I just think that creatives are, you know, kind of coming out and they're putting Hugo in the back seat and they're saying, join us. We will show you, you know, how to live this fully expressed life. And as I do these podcasts with everybody, like from literally Australia, South Africa, Cambodia, have I had anybody in Russia? I don't think I've had anybody in Russia. Just literally everywhere. There's a common theme. And it's about Hugo. It's about sending Hugo away. And then it's about stepping forward and living a fully expressed life. And the fun connection is art.
Yeah. And art in many, like in all of its forms. It doesn't really matter if it's visual art or performative art, like that you are an actor, you want to be an actor maybe, or you create anything like from, whatever it is, or you're a dancer maybe, So it's basically doing this creative thing that's been inside of you all along. And maybe because of your education or friends, family, whatever you up and you stop doing it because it's like not the thing you live off or that doesn't pay you a living. So you do your job and you forget about it. But then like that's happened to me a bit because I've been painting my whole life and I always enjoyed that a lot. But there were always phases where I just completely stopped doing it, when I was studying and then I didn't think about it. But always when something happened that what got me out of balance, like, you know, when you're young, it might be a breakdown of a relationship, or it might be that you don't pass a subject or whatever. It is something like that gets you off balance. When I look back now, that's always when I went back to painting and to creating, because while creating, even like if you, for example, I do these kind of jewelry as well. If you do these kind of things, you get into a place where you don't think, where you just let it flow and you just be in the no mind state. That's what I always feel. And I have something, what I do, what I love to do, because I'm a mom of quite young kids still. And there is often not that much time to paint. So I do these smaller postcard kind of paintings. And I call them flow cards. Nice. Because I sit down and I start and I don't think what I do. I don't like plan it or anything. I just grab the first color that is there with the first brush and I start. And something I stamp something I stick something, and something I just draw with my fingers. And that may be 15 minutes or sometimes half an hour, sometimes 10 minutes. But it gives me this place of creation, of now not overthinking. Hugo is gone. I'm just there and let whatever creativity wants to come through me out. And I really enjoy this time. And it's really not that much of an effort to do that.
Another common word that if I could go back and watch each of these, the word flow is used almost every single podcast. And so it's happening. Like that is, I think that is what's going to change the world or whatever, is just people learning to flow.
Yeah.
And embracing that.
Yeah.
It's almost like letting go, or, you know, just being.
It's just be it. It's connect. Like in the end, it's a form of meditation. It's to connect with your inner self. Like as you said, we changed the world. It's the change is within, and it's like it's always said, you want to change the world, change yourself. But this is happening when you look when you're aware of your inner emotions and you bring them out, or you let them be, and you connect with yourself, and then it flows into the world, and it connects with other people as well, and they get inspired and do the same thing in their way.
Let's talk a little bit about what inspires you to do the art that you do, as I'm looking behind you.
Yeah.
And also, you can choose one of these topics, either that topic, or, because I meant to ask you exactly what a conscious reader is.
Okay. I'll combine it, because it's a combination, because I actually like the conscious reading thing. It's actually a method to read in the field, in the morphogenetic field. So basically, this is like the energy field we all are and we all create. And like I did a training on this, and I learned to connect with it basically. And then you can read messages for people, or you can step into their higher self, or you can step into like something they want, maybe like how did that and that person get so easily into that kind of state, for example. And then I receive a message, and I just speak it out, and the person usually really connects with this, because we're all able to do this. I'm the first person who said, like, I can't do this. I received a lot of messages before I even thought I would do the training, but I always felt so like it was so fitting every time, that like it's amazing, it's working somehow. And after I did that training, I just did that last November, I realized that what I was doing with the flow cards is basically connecting with the field, because it's this kind of, okay, forget Hugo first and then just do, or just let come what comes. And that's when I realized what this was. So it's kind of a connection. That's also what inspires me, because I might later, like if I like this, for example, I might take this and make a bigger painting of it as an inspiration. But what I love most are these tiny little flow cards, like, well, because it's really like it comes out of the field, it comes out of the energy of the I can't really explain it. It's just not something that I think. It comes out of the everywhere, you know, like and yeah, and I do other paintings. I also make paintings where I think about like very colorful usually, but I don't make big sketches or things like that. It's abstract, it's intuitive, so there is really no plan to it. It comes what's the feeling, and what is what's basically there in the moment for me. And what I started doing after I did that training is ask for messages afterwards. So I actually offer this. I offer to like people can ask me for a card for a person. And so I would connect. I usually do it the other way around. I first paint, and then I ask for a message for that person through that card. And that sometimes comes I don't know, something they need to hear at the moment, like a positive message, or how they should approach next month, or something like that. And usually it's really, I get really nice feedback for that.
So having interviewed several abstract artists and kind of looked at their art, notably what is different for me when I look at your art is your clear lines and separation of colors and forms, right? So the forms, the separation of colors, kind of the contrasting colors. So some things recede and some things pop out, and shapes, like as opposed to I don't know, they look a little bit more conscious to me, as far as maybe their placement, and it's not a pouring of paint or a swash of brush.
I know what you mean. It's not like the abstract kind of the process of like just maybe using art and whatever happens.
Yes.
I know what you mean. Okay, so yeah, I actually have favorite shapes with are basically circles,
Yeah.
lines, and ovals. That's just
Yeah.
my shapes. But I think they have to do with my like that always comes. So it's something in my I don't know what it is field
Mhm.
that repeats itself. I see that too,
Yeah.
especially round forms.
They could almost be city-like,
Uh-huh.
like buildings.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like maybe not here, but like places. I guess I should
Yes.
say places.
Yeah. I
Like
like that.
I can paint landscapes. You can just see the very
Yes.
edge of
Yes.
this one here. But if
Mm-hmm.
you kind of look here, and then I can't point at your screen, but then you look in yours,
Yeah.
um, the only thing that makes a bit of difference is because you can tell that's a sailboat and you can tell that's a
Yeah.
building. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The
And
same thing in the
yeah.
sky here is that place of the cosmos or the void or the field. That
Yeah.
is that is happening in almost every one of the skies of my paintings, because what you don't know is that we're very similar in what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not. I like that you say that because it's like I want to say that I have no art education whatsoever. So I thought about it when I was young if I go into that direction, and then I opted now to be a teacher, and I studied languages and actually some other subject that I've been teaching. But um, and I sometimes regret that part, like, wow, I would have loved to learn more and to know more. And now I'm at a point where I say, like, I'm so glad I didn't, because it's like I feel so free.
Mm,
Like maybe somebody would come and say, yeah, but the composition is not right, or the, whatever. But
yeah.
it doesn't happen to me because I don't know of these things. So I'm totally free when I do it. And I don't do it on purpose, let's say like that. Of course I do it on purpose because I make
Yeah.
them, but
Mhm.
it's not thought through. So that you see landscapes there is great, because the funny thing is, and I talk about my kids now, we had, I think, a similar one hanging in our kitchen in our previous flat. And one day my husband started to talk to the kids about the painting, and they were like, what if you would live in there, like
Mm,
what would you eat?
yeah.
Like what part of this paint, like what would you be first? I would be that yellow dot. Okay, where would you sleep? Well, I would sleep in that rainbow, for example, or and what would you eat? I would eat those green things. And I thought that was so nice to think
Yeah.
about this as an actual fantasy world where you could live in and live off things.
Mhm.
And I always look like remember that moment so precious, because it's something how you could also approach art with young kids, especially, like what how do you feel about this shape and this kind of things. It's funny that you say
Yeah.
that.
So I'm also an early childhood teacher. So I've been working with children ages like 4 through 6 now for almost 30 years. I mean, I took a 10-year chunk off to raise my own boys. But
Mm-hmm.
so when I'm painting, I'm getting going back to that childlike wonder. And
Mm-hmm.
so also looping back around to you not having formal training, as is what you said. So I started painting when I was 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
I did grow up with like sort of a private art teacher, or sometimes I would go in groups, and she taught me the most realistic way to paint.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so perspective, and but not formal perspective where you're drawing those lines. I've actually never
Mm-hmm.
done,
Mm-hmm.
where somebody's teaching you 1 2 3. I don't know how to do any of that. My mind does not do that. um but what she was a wildlife painter, and
Mm-hmm.
so and seascapes. So I grew up painting things like that. um the interesting thing is that I always saw or painted perspective in kind of a skewed way.
Mm-hmm.
Just because that's how my mind thought about it, that's how I found it beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And so my undergrad is in studio art, and so I went through, I don't know, 5 years of being in painting class. I still never was quote unquote like taught perspective, or even made to do perspective, or my mind was just, I need to be free. You
Yeah.
can't put me in a box. However, I do paint buildings, but there's
Yeah.
always something very interesting about them. Now, I was married for an architect for 21 years.
That influences.
So he had an issue with the perspective. Like, that was the only
Okay.
person ever. He was like, that doesn't make sense. And it was so, I didn't like that. Like, I
This
didn't,
is artistic freedom.
that felt a little repressive, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've been painting for years. I can do this, right? So grew up with that very, very, very realistic, went to college where they're like, open your mind and paint. That's when I started painting these really large, abstract, non-object, just like color, shape, and form, gigantic oils. I had my own studio, really large, putting my body into it, the total opposite of how I grew up, right?
Yeah.
Then I had my boys, and they were my art. And then this style that I have now started to develop, which is kind of and I know I'm talking about me and it's your podcast, but
But
you
it's a
start
fusion, no? It's kind of a fusion. No, that's
the
fine.
fusion. It's a
Yeah.
fusion of the extreme realism with the abstract,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which I have kind of coined, and I know this is already a word, but like expressionism or romantic expressions.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you see here, this is my more whimsical style, which is all intuitive. This painting actually has 37 layers now. It's a project. I kind of like this layer, but it's
Yeah.
got 37 layers where it just turned into different things.
Yeah.
And so that all being said, um, I think it doesn't matter where you start to swim in the swimming pool, like of being an artist, wherever you jump in is your art.
Yeah.
And it's just that
Yeah.
I've been through different uh, personas or different. You can definitely see my style, but it's like different people, totally
Yeah.
different people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like it's a process, and you grow in life and you develop as an artist. Like if I look back, I said I painted my whole life on and off. And I had phases like, for example, I met a student colleague, and she painted with pastels, and I hadn't done that ever. So she inspired me to do that. And then I did do that. And it was just like suddenly quite realistic still lifes. Well, a bit like realistic, but expressive, like with a lot of different colors that are not real. And the funny thing is, like a long time, I wouldn't call myself an artist until like a year ago, maybe, because I copied many artists that I liked, but in a way, like I would take a picture or a painting and would make it mine. So for example, a lot was, Hundertwasser.
I'll have to look that up.
He's an Austrian artist, and he also made these very colorful buildings. And people now say something, it's like it connects with, like, it's somehow your style as well. It's different, but it's like it's influenced. It might be true. But I took his paintings, and funny enough, and I just realized that really a short time ago, I had a postcard booklet when I was like, I don't know, 17, 18.
Oh,
With
Klimpt. Klimt?
No, but Klimt as well. Klimt as
Okay.
well.
Okay.
He's also Austrian.
Yeah.
So those two definitely were artists that I really liked as a young person. I still like them, but that influenced a bit what I painted. So I would take a Hundertwasser painting and I would draw not the same, but would be inspired from it and would use my colors and kind of thing. So it was not the same thing at the end, but it was highly inspired by it, I would say. Okay. So I would never have said at that time, this is like totally mine, because it was kind of taken over. And a long time I had the feeling I can't do, like, I only can do this. I only can take others' work, get inspired from it, and then like copy it somehow and change the shape a bit. And one is a South American artist, Guya Samin is his name. And he painted these hands and like mothers with babies, like very expressionistic, but in a way I really liked. And I took those and made them very colorful and put my thing into it. But still, I didn't feel it was mine. And that's the funny part of it, I thought like I just can't. And I wanted to make a present to my best friend. And I thought I'd paint her something, but something really from me. And that's the first painting ever that I say like, okay, this is so mine. That's not copied from anyone. That's not inspired by anyone. It's just what came out of me. And from that day, like I couldn't copy anymore. It was like a click that had to happen. And since then, it's like I don't even feel like looking at other, I don't even like, I enjoy art of other people, obviously, but it's not like, oh, that looks good, I'll try. No, I do my thing, and it's funny because it was this, I really thought I can't do it. And now I think I can't do the other one. It's just like a switch that I turned. I don't know.
Katrin, I want to thank you for coming and being on the show. I'm gonna put in the show notes where people can get in touch with you. There's a little bit of writing that you've sent that I'm adding to the show notes. And I want to thank everybody for coming and watching and listening as I share my love of fun, connection, collaboration, and art. It would be great if you subscribe to hear more of these lovely interviews. Each time I pose an open-ended question, but with these interviews, I can just bring the book right out because I have so much information there. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Don't go anywhere.
Thank you for having me.